Welcome back, Queen, to another episode of According to Annie. I am excited to be dropping on in. If you are new, welcome, babe. So nice to have you. If you are an OG, oh my gosh, you know I love you. Thank you for tuning in again. Let's delve straight into it today because this is the follow on from part 2. So let's get straight into my ayahuasca experience and the last 2 ceremonies and my biggest reflections and takeaways of what went on. So if you have not yet listened to part 1, I highly recommend that you go and have a listen to that because it's going to help give you an understanding on what's going on when I'm sharing with you what's happening in the ceremony. And yeah, you might want a little bit of knowledge around the ayahuasca and the retreat itself and how it all kind of came about and why I was there and all of that stuff in Costa Rica. So I highly recommend that that's what you go and do. Listen to part 1 first, because each of the ceremonies actually stack on top of each other. And so, yeah, if you come in and you listen just to ceremony 3 and 4, then it's kind of not really going to make sense. And it all makes sense when you go through the actual process. So let's delve into it. So, oh my gosh. FYI, this is probably not an episode to be listening if you've got kids in the car. So yeah, maybe just be mindful of that. Because this ceremony that I experienced was a lot. And yeah, it's just not appropriate for children to be listening. It could bring up, a lot of things. I also want to say that it could also be a trigger warning as well for some of you, depending on if you're listening, because it is bringing up my abortion and both of my abortions. So the one that I had when I was 23 and the most recent one that I had in 2022. So if you feel like that is something that is going to be a trigger for you, I invite you to do what feels good for you. Obviously, this is my experience and I'm sharing it from a place of love. I'm not sharing it from a place of wanting to hurt you or anything like that. I'm purely just sharing my experience. But if you feel like that would be too much for you, then that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So just trust yourself and trust that you know what it is that you need. But I just wanted to put that out there and just do some pre-warning beforehand so that, yeah, you could make that decision for yourself. So ceremony 3 was my most profound ceremony out of the entire 4 ceremonies. So out of the 7 days, we sat with the medicine 4 nights. And I'll be honest, like after the second ceremony, there was definitely a part of me that kicked in and I was like, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I think I'm ready to go home. Like not really getting what I thought I was going to get out of this. And I know that I was not alone. I think that a lot of women were feeling that way. And apparently that's very, very common when you sit with ayahuasca, which is why they encourage you to sit more than twice, because you're just literally starting to work through in the medicine and you are starting to build the trust together. And therefore your moments your ceremonies are going to start to become more and more profound moving forward. But my intention with this particular ceremony was to show me what to remember, to teach me through the lens of an eagle, and to activate the divine mother within me. So can you hear how each ceremony, my intentions got a little bit more specific? And that's because the medicine will work with you based on your intentions and based on how willing you are to work with the medicine. And so throughout this ceremony and the next ceremony, I definitely got a little bit clearer on what my intentions were so that she could know what it was that I was looking for. And then obviously like intention setting is so powerful. So through this journey was like I said, it was my most profound experience. So there was a part of me that it started off with being trapped again. But the more that I looked at this mesh, this flywire screen, the more I started to see codes in it. And that was really, really fascinating, because perhaps at times I felt like I was trapped in certain situations, whether that be relationships, whether that be my family, whether that be the religion, whatever it is. But if I actually stay a little bit longer, is it possible that I could actually be receiving a lot of codes, and if I'm open to it? And so I felt like that was one of the biggest lessons that I got out of this ceremony, was because at the start, what I kept seeing in ceremony 1 and 2 was this mesh of like flywire, tiny little squares. It was like literally like flywire is what I could see, like just in front of my vision. And through ceremony 3, I really started to look a little bit closer and a little bit deeper at what this mesh was. And it was actually the codes of the ayahuasca, which can happen. You can actually see, everyone experiences different things. They feel things, they see things, they hear things. They feel it, like everyone sees everyone experiences are very different. And so she was showing me that, like, if I actually looked a little bit harder, what I thought was the reality was actually not the reality. And I was actually getting codes and wisdom from that. And so that was really, really cool to actually see that I wasn't trapped. Another part that became really big as well was this beautiful woman that was like dancing in front of me. And it was very evident to me that dancing would become a really big part of my life in my healing journey, and also in connecting to my divine feminine, which, remember, that was also one of my intentions, was to activate the divine mother within me. And so I truly believe that that's why dancing is such a big part of my world. And if you've been in my world, you will see that I am always dancing, like always. If you come to any kind of retreat of mine, be prepared to fucking dance, because that, for me, is what I truly believe is the definition of the divine feminine within us, allowing her to free flow, to be expressive, to whether that's being sexy, whether that's being sensual, like whatever that looks like for you, it really is the activation of the divine feminine. And so I got these beautiful, like, clear messages and wisdom as well, of like this beautiful woman that was just dancing in front of me all of the time. And it was really clear that that was going to become part of who I am and part of my work as well. So that was really interesting from that perspective too. And then there was a moment through this ceremony where somebody started laughing. And then somebody else joined the laughter. And then someone else joined the laughter. And then I'm joining the laughter. And it was like, what happened was, all of those women that were dancing, it was like all of our souls like went up into the middle of the room, and we were dancing and laughing and having fun. But like, we actually were laughing in real life. And it was so fascinating. And like, the facilitators did warn us that that can happen. And when it starts, it's actually very hard to control and get control back over the room. And so there was definitely facilitators coming around to those people that were laughing. And I remember being like a little girl getting in trouble. Like, I was trying so hard not to laugh, with like my hands over my mouth, like literally like trying to like contain my laughter, which makes it worse. You can't contain laughter. And so eventually I had one of the facilitators come over and like put her hand on me and try and like calm me down. And like, I was fine for a minute, and then like the room kind of went silent. All the laughing kind of stopped, and then someone would start back up again. And then I'm like, oh no, I just composed myself. And then I'd start laughing again. Like, you can't control what is going on with the medicine. It's so fascinating what goes on with your body. But anyway, the room ended up like managing to calm down. And that was a beautiful part of the journey as well, because again, like, it just re-emphasized that healing does get to be fun, that healing can have laughter, that healing can, it doesn't have to always be dark and gloomy. So that was a really beautiful reflection as well from that ceremony. But the biggest thing that happened through this ceremony, I pretty much instantly after taking my medicine, I was pretty sick. It did not take me long at all to have it activated within me. And what actually happened was I went on a journey where I was back in a hospital. And so what she did is she took me back to the moment where I had my first abortion. And what was really, really interesting was before I sat with this ceremony, we all sat together in circle, and we sat with the shamans, and they asked us, like, you know, when we come around tonight, like, is there something specific that you want us to work on? And so I had actually said that I had recently had an abortion in July, and my cycles were all over the shop. Like, I would have a period for 2 weeks, and then I wouldn't have anything. And then I'd have another period, like, come back again in 2 weeks' time. And I was getting really frustrated that my period cycles were just like all over the joint. And so I had said in this ceremony, before we sat in ceremony that morning, I had said, like, I would love like some help with the healing of my womb. And little did I know what I was asking for when I said that. And I was like, you know, I just really would love to get some help with healing. You know, like, I'm sure that there's like some stuck trauma in there, and like whatever that is. So I'm open to having that. And so when I then sat with this intention of show me what I need to remember, teach me through the lens of an eagle, and activate the divine mother within me, I didn't realize that that first intention that I set with the shamans, and then the intention that I had set by myself, what was actually going to unfold from that night. And so I remember being so sweaty. Like, I was absolutely sweating that much that I ended up taking my clothes off. And so normally in ceremony that doesn't happen, but you know, everything is welcome. It's pitch black. And I couldn't understand why I was like taking my clothes off. And so I like was taking my top off. I had a skirt on as well. I'd taken my skirt off. And I just remember like sitting on like the edge of the bed, just feeling so ill, so sick. I was already vomiting profusely by this stage. And so I knew that I was in for a big ceremony for the night, because it started so early on. And I just remember sitting there, and I was taken back to the July situation when I had my abortion. So I was taken back to the hospital, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this makes sense. Like, this is why I have no clothes on, because I'm literally sitting in the hospital. And what happened is going to be very hard for you to fathom, because it's still hard for me to fathom what actually went on. But I promise you that this is exactly what went on, because my body was telling me that it was happening. And so what happened was, next minute I feel myself laying on a surgical bed, and the doctor comes in, and my legs are up in the air as if I'm about to have my abortion. And I'm wide awake for this. And I don't know if you've ever taken psychedelics or not before, but they give you the illusion that what you're seeing and what you're experiencing is actually happening in real life, but it's not happening in real life. And so I'm on this bed in my mind, in my visions that I'm having, and my body is sweating profusely, and I've got no clothes on. And all of a sudden this eagle comes down to fly beside me and says, hop on. And so I hop on the back of this eagle, but then I like split in two. So like I become like two people, but still one person. And the eagle flies up into the air, and I'm watching what's happening, but at the same time I'm on the bed and I'm experiencing what's also going on too. It is the most surreal experience. And I know that if you're listening to this, how crazy this sounds, because it really does sound crazy, but I promise you that this is exactly what went on. And this is like, until you've sat with the medicine, you won't understand fully what does go on. So anyway, I'm up on the back of this eagle and I'm watching what is unfolding. And I'm also on this surgical table, and there's doctors and that around me and nurses. And the doctor walks in that's going to perform the surgery and that, like, the actual abortion. And so my legs are up on this table and he just goes on in, and I'm wide awake. I've had no painkillers, no relief, nothing at all. And I can feel him up inside my vagina walls, inside my cervix, and he is extracting the baby. And I'm essentially reliving the abortion, but I am reliving it alive and awake. I mean, I was alive first time, but I'm awake this time. And so I could feel everything, like absolutely everything. It was so painful. I was sobbing. I was crying. I was in so much pain. I could feel my sisters on either side of me sending me so much love, because I could feel what I was going through. They didn't know what I was going through. They could just feel my energy and the way that I was reacting, and the process that I was going through was a lot, and I could feel their love. And there was so much, and he was being so rough up and inside my vagina, and it was like the universe, it was like ayahuasca was showing me what actually went on, but I was asleep. And I know that she showed me that because I was being so unfair on my body, and I was getting annoyed that my cycles were still not sorted after 2 months. Like, this is ridiculous. But after experiencing that and knowing what potentially could have actually gone on, and the trauma that was created from this doctor going in and doing this procedure, made so much sense as to why my cycles were so out of whack. And, you know, when I look back, and the recovery that I was going through after this procedure in real life back in July was pretty intense. I had some severe clots. I had some severe bleeding. I was in agony for days and days. I couldn't eat. And I don't remember that the first time round. So having this second experience, like, I definitely think that it was a completely different procedure that I had actually encountered. And ayahuasca showed me what that actually did look like from being awake. And so he was obviously like doing the thing and doing the procedure, and there was a part that was like stuck, that was not actually happening. And anyway, he kind of like disappeared, and I kind of went from out of this hospital room to being back into the Maloka now, and the Ikaros shamans were coming around to sing, and she came to me, and I remember, so they sit about 1 meter in front of you and they sing whatever the music of the plants is that the message that they're getting. They sing whatever the codes are that you need to help you heal. And so if a shaman touches you, or they do this certain, I can't remember what it's called, but they like put their hands over your crown and they like suck up. If there's something that's stuck that you can't release yourself, they will actually do it for you. And it's seen as like a very big privilege if they do that. Like, if they come and touch you and do that, that's a really big deal. And so they'll suck it up and then they'll spit it out. And then, yeah, like if they come and touch you, it's like such an honor to be touched. So she comes around to me, and I remember sitting on the edge of the bed with my legs out, like naked. I'm so glad that it was dark, but absolutely naked on this bed, because I've essentially just had some form of surgery procedure, but it didn't get all finalized. And I remember just looking up and seeing the outline of her shadow, and I mouthed to her, like, please help me. The agony and the pain that I was in was excruciating. I literally felt like I was undertaking surgery without anesthetic. That was how it was feeling. And before she started singing, she stands up and she has this like perfume stuff that is used to like help heal and help release things and stuff like that. So she pours this perfume into her hand and she starts rubbing it all over my body. So remember, I'm naked. So she's rubbing it over my breasts. She's rubbing it down my arm. She's rubbing it over my back. She pours more into her hands, and she like grabs my face and like looks into my eyes, even though it was pitch black. I know that we like had this moment, and it felt like she was like, you're okay, I'm gonna help you. That was how it felt. From like, it was such a beautiful moment, and I knew that I really had to like surrender to her helping me so that I could heal this part of this process that was happening. And so she sits back down and she starts singing the Ekaros to me. And I'm instantly vomiting. Instantly, like I'd already been vomiting, but as soon as she starts that singing, I could feel the medicine inside my body and I'm vomiting, and I could feel all of this like emotions, and everything was like so heightened by this stage. And it was like she was performing the last part of the procedure for me. And after she finished her song, like I was like, I think I need to go to the toilet. And so throughout all of my ceremonies, I've never once had to get up and go to the toilet. And to be honest, I don't know if I would have been capable. Like your body is, you feel so out of it that I just don't think that you would be capable. But after she left, there was a part of me that felt like I needed to go to the toilet and like almost like finish off the last of this part of this procedure. And so I called for some help, and Tuva came over and she was like, you all right? And I was like, I need to go to the toilet. And she's like, okay, no worries, I'll help you. And I was like, I don't have any clothes on. And she's like, okay, let's like wrap a blanket around you. And so she just like wraps this blanket around me, and I'm like, I don't think I can get up. And she's like, it's okay, like we're going to do it together. So she like helps me get up, and I'm standing, but I don't feel like I'm standing. Like, it's the most unreal feeling that's so hard to explain and describe what goes on. And she's like, just like take one step in front of the other. And I'm like, I don't think I can. And she's like, you can. So I'm like holding on to her, she's holding on to me, and I start stepping, but I don't feel like I'm walking. I feel like I'm floating. And I just remember as I'm like walking across the other side of the room to the door to head outside to go to the toilet, I just remember thinking, how am I doing this? Like, how am I doing this? My body does not feel capable to be able to do this. Like, it was this most surreal feeling that I'm like, I'm doing it, but I don't know how I'm doing this. And she gets me to the toilet, and I'm quite scared at this stage. Like, I've just experienced a hell of a lot. And so I said to her, like, please don't leave me. And she was like, it's okay. I'm going to give you some privacy. I'm going to be here at the door. And I was like, okay. And so I sit on the toilet, and I feel this sharp pain in my womb space. And I'm just like sitting there, and I'm like, feel the urge to like push. And so I start like pushing, and this like, I hear this like trinket or something, like, I don't know, like this, something drops into the toilet bowl. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what was that? Anyway, I get the toilet paper and I wipe myself, and there's blood on the toilet paper. And I was like, whoa, like energetically, I literally just went through this procedure, but yet there was physical evidence that my body did actually go through it. It was mind blowing. And obviously I was on the toilet for quite some time, and Tuva like knocks on the door and she checks on me and she's like, are you all right? And I'm like, I think I need some help getting back off the seat. She's like, no worries. Like they are so beautiful. Like felt like such a safe space that they create for you. So she helps me get up, and she looks me in the eye, and she says, "Good job. You did a really good job." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, how do you know what just happened?" Like, but it felt so nice to be seen after what I had just gone through. I'm going to get emotional. Because it was a lot. It was a lot to experience energetically, but also physically, like, and to go through that without anesthetic and to see what my body was actually capable of doing was pretty incredible. Like, our human body is just, the female body is just absolutely insane what it is capable of doing. Give me a moment. And so she takes me back to my bed, and I lay down, and then the daughter comes along and she starts singing the Ekaros. And this time I could see all of these light codes, and it was like the music that she was singing, the Ekaros that she was singing, the music of the plants, was like she was healing my womb. And I could see all of these light codes coming back into my womb space, and whatever I had obviously just released or got out of my womb, she was filling back up and putting all of this love and light and healing that was like going on in my womb space, because I'm sure that there was some trauma from the one 10 years ago, as well as the one that just, you know, most recently happened in 2022. And so I just remember like feeling like she was calling all of these parts back and healing my beautiful womb space. And it was just the most beautiful, but fucked up ceremony that I've ever sat in. And I actually shared that in my reflection the next day. Like, this would have to be the most fucked up situation, but the most beautiful at the exact same time. And I never thought that I would ever be able to experience something like that. And so, you know, this entire journey for this ceremony was so profound for me, because it really created a new level of appreciation for my body and what it could go through. And remember, at the start, I told you about how much I have healed and worked through body dysmorphia and body image issues, and how now you can see that from ceremony 1 to ceremony 2 to ceremony 3, how they all play such a vital stepping stone in the healing journey. And so it created this intense love for my womb space and what it was actually capable of doing, and being able to be on the eagle and see the entire situation from a higher perspective, whilst my vessel is experiencing this healing, was out of this world. Because it really allowed me to see it from a different perspective, from seeing it from a higher perspective and understanding what was happening and what was going on, at the same time of me actually experiencing it. And, you know, it was showing me how protected I can be and how healing can actually occur in so many different ways. It also really showed me how fucking strong and resilient I am as a woman to energetically go through that kind of procedure and then physically have blood on the toilet paper. Like, showed me how strong I am. Like, not only did I experience that being under anesthetic, but then I got to relive it to show me how capable my body is, and to show me how much love I should hold on my body for what it went through, and how unrealistic I am being on my cycles healing and becoming normal after I literally just did the opposite of what my body was preparing itself to do. And it just made me really reflect on, like, where else does that show up in my life, where, you know, I'm going against the opposite way, but yet I'm expecting a different result. You know, my body was preparing itself to have a baby. Like, that's the natural process that my body was going through. And I went through the opposite of that, and chose consciously to not have that child. But yet I was holding myself to an unrealistic expectation that I should have been healed within a month. And it was just this, like, beautiful reflection of, like, wow. And I really felt like I am not my body. Like, I've heard people say that to me, like, you're not your body, but I never physically really understood what that meant. And that ceremony really showed me what that meant, because I really didn't feel like I was my body. The fact that I could get up and walk to the toilet when I didn't feel like I was actually doing it, the fact that I was in the air on the back of an eagle and watching what was going on underneath me, like, I have this new profound love for my body, of what it's capable of doing. And like, it's such a vessel. Like, oh my gosh, it's such a vessel. It has this capability of being able to pull a bucket close to you, to be able to vomit, to be able to call for help when you don't feel like you're able to be able to get yourself to the toilet when you don't feel like you're able to be able to undergo energetic surgery without anesthetic. Like, it just gave me this new profound love and appreciation for what my body could actually go through, and how strong and how resilient I really am. And I felt like, that ceremony really cleaned up any trauma that was in my womb space. And I now see my womb space as such a sacred space. And I am so picky in who I let come into that space, because that healing journey that I went on gave me the opportunity to completely clean that out, to completely get rid of any trauma, to completely get rid of anybody else's energies. As you think about it, as women, we're penetrated. So if you are sleeping with a guy and he's been with other women, then he has those women's energies, which are then coming inside you as well. And so whilst I don't have a huge extensive number, I think I can count mine under two hands. That's still energy that I have received from the people that I've slept with, that have been stored in my womb space. And so from going through this beautiful healing journey, it's made me have this new level of love and appreciation for my womb space, and how sacred it really is. Like, it creates fucking life. Like, I create life inside my body. That is so fucking sacred. And I am not going to let just anybody and everybody come into that space. And so when I got home from this ceremony, or from this retreat, I really started adding like womb practices into my daily practices, because our womb is our life force. This is where we create content. This is where we birth things, not just physical things, but this is where all of our stuff comes from, this beautiful space. And when you learn the power that your womb has, it has the ability to make you money. It has the ability to have you tap into your highest connection. Like, there's so much wisdom and power in our womb space. And when you understand how precious and sacred it is, you will start treating it like the sacredness that it is. And so, I am very, very picky in who comes into that space, and I won't let just anybody, like, they have to be a vibrational match in order for me to allow them to come into that space, because that ceremony that I went through enabled me to do so much healing and so much cleansing that I am going to be picky in who can come into that space. It's a very sacred space. So I really feel like learning all of that about my womb and knowing what it's capable of, and giving me this new profound experience of how sacred my womb space is. I then understood how important that is to bring into the areas of my work that I do, because I think we don't, as women, understand the importance of it. We don't actually treat it with the sacredness that it has. I mean, think about the paradigm that we're working in right now. Do you stop when you get your cycle? No, you keep working, you keep hustling, you keep operating like in a world that's masculine. And that's not how we're designed to be as women. We're designed to be tapping into our feminine, and we have these cycles for a reason, and we should be honoring those cycles. And so all of this changed the way that I show up in my life. It changed in the way that I show up in my business. And so I really got to learn a lot about my cycles, and I now optimize my business and my life based on my cycles nowadays. I now know when I should be most productive and when I should be resting. And so it's such an honor for us to be given this opportunity, be given this opportunity to really learn and understand the power in our womb space, which is exactly like what I was saying, is why I bring it into the work that I do, especially in Evolve, the Salon Mastermind, because as soon as you understand the power and the importance of your womb space, everything shifts. Everything shifts. You will make more money. You will release any sexuality shame that you hold. You'll start to tap into, there's so many things, like there's money magic, like there's sex magic, there's so much stuff that we can like actually delve into around all of this. But you know, I'm so grateful for this ceremony that I got to sit in, because it really did allow me to see my body in a completely different way. And it really allowed me to love my body like I've never done before. And, you know, to get to the age of, what was I, 33, to get to the age of 33 and finally accept and love my body, is such a relief, and it's such a weight off my shoulders, because that takes a lot of energy to be consuming yourself with about your body image. And I'm truly, truly grateful for that experience that I got to sit in and experience, even though it was so hard. And this is why I truly believe that it's taken me 12 months to really integrate from that ceremony in particular, because it was a lot. It was a lot for me to actually experience and go through and to heal. And I really needed to integrate it first before I shared from that space. So that was my ceremony 3. And I know that was a lot. So we're going to add a part 3 into this, because I would love to just share with you the last ceremony that I went through and the biggest reflections that I had over the entire retreat. So if this has landed for you, or you know that there's some deeper work that you want to actually start to go through and start healing and working through, then please come and DM me and see what containers I've got available at the moment that are doing this type of work, because this is the type of work, if you're a salon owner, this is the type of work we do in Evolve, the Salon Mastermind. If you're a non-salon owner, then I do have another container called Flow that we do this type of work in as well. So if that feels like you're ready to start going through that type of work and start healing, not necessarily, you know, like ayahuasca stuff, but if you just want to start like working through the shame perhaps that you hold around your sexuality, the shame that you hold around your womb space, like whatever it might be, you'll know what it is. If that is something that you do want to do and start working through, then please reach out, because, you know, I would love to support you through that. It would be an absolute honor to support you through whatever it is that's coming up for you. so that you can really step into your true authentic self. And oh girl, it's such a freeing experience once you've gone through that, to just fully love yourself, to fully love and accept yourself and show up in a way that feels the most authentic version for you, and not give a fuck what anybody else thinks. So thank you for tuning in today. I know today was a lot, but I really hope that, my journey and what I've gone through does inspire you to also do the inner work, because the inner work is really where it's at. And that's where we get to really step into our highest timeline. So thank you, and tune in for part 3. Talk to you soon. Bye.